Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Millennium Pod, a Star Wars podcast by me, Ari, at ari.in.space on TikTok and at the Millennium Pod, all one word, on Instagram. This week, I'm very fortunate to be joined by another wonderful guest whom I've also met from TikTok. What a fantastic place to be. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know where we can find you on social media, as well as why don't you give us a little spiel about, why you like Star Wars so much, because this is a Star Wars podcast.
Heck yeah. Hi, I am Kevin. On TikTok, I am known as a dude named Kev. The underscores in between where the spaces would be a underscore dude underscore named underscore Kev. And as far as Star Wars and like how I got into Star Wars, why I love Star Wars so much, it's a family thing. My dad used to put on all the old movies when we were kids, and me and my brother always just loved it. And we went to see all of the prequel trilogy together in theaters, and then I carried that tradition on with my children. My brother did the same. So it's a 3-generational fandom, and Star Wars means more than Star Wars to me. It's family and friends and connections. And maybe the real Star Wars was the friends we made along the way. But but anyways, jokes aside, yeah, it's actually kind of a true statement. I mean, that's pretty much why my love for Star Wars exists. And I have made, like you said, through TikTok, so many wonderful friends, lifelong people who I know just have my back and I have theirs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way. You pretty much summed up most of Star Wars for me. I didn't actually watch the movies till later, as people who have listened to this previously know, but I do feel that, it's met so many great people through Star Wars. So I'm glad to hear that you feel the same way about that. So this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a fantastic character in Star Wars. Ahsoka Tano is that character. For me, I'm a relatively new Ahsoka fan, I would say. I just finished the Clone Wars recently, just finished Rebels last night, actually. Just read her book. And so I love her so far, but I feel like I haven't really had enough time to kind of digest how great of a character she is. So I'm super excited to have you on, because I know you said, if not your favorite, she's definitely like way up there in terms of you loving her as a character. Yeah. So I would love to hear, and I'm sure the listeners would love to hear, what she means to you and why you like her so much, I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. She undoubtedly is my number one.
Okay, yeah.
Just because of the personal connection, like, and we'll get into that, but like her story really resonates with me because it's my story. It's
right.
Something that I've lived. Obviously not the Jedi Order, but I've lived through, the Jedi Order is very much a symbolic interpretation of religion. I mean, they literally call it the Jedi religion in several canon sources. It's upon as a religion. It's treated as such, and it's an allegory for religion. And that's, her breaking away from that is quite literally something that very much happened in my life too. So it's very relatable. The one thing I do want to touch on though is you mentioned you're a new Ahsoka fan, and you feel like you might not be very, very well like versed into deep diving into her character, but there is no such thing as a fan too new to acknowledge and love and appreciate a character. Like, it doesn't matter if you watched it when you were 10 years old, or if you just watched it, just finished Rebels. A quick little shameless plug about it. It's not really a shameless plug at all. I don't know why I said that. But my brain just went, woo! Rebels is legitimately 100% my favorite canon media, period.
Okay.
Out of all of Star Wars, Rebels is absolutely my favorite. There's just something about the way that it tells the story from the perspective of one found family group that is just beautiful to me. Like, it feels, it's set in that space right in between the prequel trilogy and original trilogy, but it vibes so much more as the way that the original trilogy did, like the pacing, the setting, the following one tight knit group of characters. It's just, and that's the thing. Me being an older dude, the OT was my original home. Like
Right.
that was what's the quintessential Star Wars for me. So
Yeah.
having that kind of vibe in that animated show, I was just like, this is fantastic. I love this. And it
Yeah.
kind of felt a little bit like Firefly too. And I love Firefly. It's a not related to Star Wars conversation.
Hey, that's
Another piece,
fine.
just another piece of nerd media. I absolutely love Firefly, and that crew kind of reminded me a lot of the Serenity crew and Firefly, and I'm like, this is good. This is just good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Long story short, there's no such thing as a fan too new to absolutely appreciate 100% of the character.
Yeah. Well, then in that case, I absolutely 100% appreciate Ahsoka. I think, yeah, for me, I just love to see a story that is still about, a Jedi. I mean, I guess we'll talk later about whether or not we think she's a Jedi or not. But that's different. It's her journey is quite different from everybody else. In Star Wars, like there's nothing really, really else like it. And much like, someone like Obi-Wan, she goes through a lot, but never really loses that faith in, the goodness of things. I mean, sure, there's times when, she stumbles and
she doesn't lose her light,
but she never loses that light. And I just think that's so interesting. And I like also that, she's younger, right? And we don't always get, I mean, I guess most of the characters are young, but she starts younger, right? I think she's
like
14.
young, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's 13,
I
14, something like that.
Yeah, 13 originally, and by the time the Clone Wars ended, I think she was 17.
Yeah, exactly.
In season 7, she was 17.
And I find like those stories where, where we get to see a character grow up as well, especially in like those formative years of being a teenager, is just really fascinating. So yeah, I think the moment that really solidified for me, like that she's super cool was in the Siege of Mandalore when she like lands, Rex is like, oh, I didn't bring you a jetpack. And she's like, oh, it's fine. And just yeets out of the carrier and just lands perfectly, and there's exploding fire behind her. I was like, wow, she is so cool.
Well, I love the attitude between the two of them too. Like he finally gets down there, she just looks over, hate you. I'm like,
yeah,
that's so great. Like you're in the middle of warfare, and like that was like nothing.
Honestly, Rex and Ahsoka's like friendship might be one of my favorite in Star Wars. It's excellent.
Easily.
And I love that it carries through into Rebels when they find Rex again. And it's so good. I've honestly, I know like the last 2 episodes of Clone Wars 7 are super depressing, but I've watched them like 3 or 4 times since in the last like 3 weeks, just because their relationship is so good. And it's just, as sad as those episodes are, that relationship just gives me hope. And I'm like, yes, we love to see it.
And that's one thing too, like with this that I got going on here. The one character that I have always wanted to cosplay is somewhere in between Clone Wars and Rebels Rex. I'm like, bald beard. I'm already halfway there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. You just need to dye your beard like bright white.
Gotta give myself a little fake, chip removal scar.
That would be amazing. I would be here for that. I would love that. Yeah, so I'm assuming now, given that you said Rebels is your favorite, I was going to ask, do you like Ahsoka more in the Clone Wars or Rebels? I'm going to assume it's Rebels, but
it's actually just straight up both, because it's all really a continuation of the same story. This is people ask me, I've done quite a few of these type of podcast type deals, just conversation like roundtable type things.
Yeah,
and one of the things that always gets brought up is like, what's your favorite this, your favorite that? I don't really have a favorite. When it comes to my favorite trilogy, it's the OT based on nostalgia alone. That is it. That's the only criteria that it edges out the other two. But I love the original trilogy. I love the prequels. Always did, even when they were hated. Love the sequel trilogy, even though it's hated. The thing is, it's like, but when I'm asked which one is my favorite, I'm like, I need all of them. They tell a cohesive story. Like it's it's an arcing story that weaves through. Like I need all of it. I can't have it's hard for me to have a favorite when we're
Yeah.
talking about a saga. I'm like, you know, it's like asking what's your favorite chapter of a book. Like, well,
Right. Yeah.
I have certain parts of that chapter that I like more than other chapters of the book, but I need the whole dang book to understand that chapter. So it's like,
Right.
it's one of those things where, and the same thing goes with Clone Wars and Rebels. I'm like, these are characters that I'm seeing their whole overarching story. So it's not even so much different portrayals or different representations. It's just different parts of their timeline. So
Right. Yeah.
I love Clone Wars Ahsoka for the general badassery,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that snarky teen,
Yeah.
rebellious, spunky attitude that is, it's just that's part of who she is. But she matures towards the end, and then but she still doesn't really lose that edge. Like she
Yeah.
always, even in Rebels, you can tell like she still has that edge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially with when she's on the hologram with Rex,
Yeah.
and he hits her back with the experience outranks
Yeah.
everything, and she hits him back with, well, then I definitely outrank you.
Yeah. 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 That made
So
me
like
laugh.
she never really lost that. So it's a slightly different character portrayal, but not really. It's
But
still got
you
all the same
still,
vibe. She's just
yeah.
older now, so she's a
Right.
little bit more toned down.
Right.
And I could say the same thing about about her portrayal in Mandalorian with Rosario Dawson. Like, I watched that episode and I was like, you know what, I had high hopes, but I also was like guarded. I was like,
Right.
I don't know, because I'm so used to Ashley. Like
Yeah.
Ashley is Ahsoka, but it was so obvious and apparent that Rosario spent some time with Ashley. Like,
Yeah.
she had to.
Oh, definitely.
She had the mannerisms down pat. Was she a little bit different of a portrayal of the character? Maybe, but she's also a lot older now. Like, we've seen how her character slowly kind of morphs into a more mature Wise that still has a little bit of a kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And I didn't see much of a change there. So I have high hopes for the Ahsoka series, because I really do think that Rosario did a really good job.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I know after that episode in The Mandalorian, a lot of like hardcore Ahsoka fans, I'll call them, were not impressed. And I mean, like I said, I was relatively new. I hadn't finished the Clone Wars, but I feel like I'd seen enough to, be like, to
Have
get
an
it.
idea, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it was great, but again, I wasn't like hardcore Ahsoka fan at the time, and I haven't actually rewatched that episode since. I should now. But it's I'm glad to hear that you're happy with it, because
Oh yeah, I was.
Yeah, I thought it was well done, and I too am very excited for the Ahsoka show. I think it's going to be pretty great. I have no idea when it's coming out, but when it does, I think it'll be. I have no idea when any of the shows are coming out. To be honest, it's all very vague.
Well, that's their announcements were. I'm stuttering bad. Holy cow! The announcements that they made. Yeah, you're right. They were very vague. They were like, "Hey, we're doing this." Okay, cool. When? Hey, we're doing this.
It's like, okay, and nobody really knows, but we'll be happy when.
I'm like, that's okay. I mean, I'm sold on your announcements. They're very good announcements. I'm sold, but can I get a when?
Yeah, or even like an approximate when? Yeah, because it's hard to know.
Like, but I will take a maybe when. I'm good with that.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to kind of talk about, and this isn't really in a particular question form, but a lot of people have made the observation, I guess, and I mean, I agree with this, that Ahsoka was, I mean, usually I guess this comes from people, love to hate on Rey Skywalker, and then love to ignore their implicit biases about that, and then say, well, I'm not, sexist because I like Ahsoka, right?
Yep,
and
yep.
which brings up,
It is the catch-all line. I have had it in
yeah,
my comment section 100
all the
times. I
time.
can't be sexist. I like Ahsoka. And you know what I tell them? I tell them, you are giving off the same energy as I can't be racist. I have a black friend. It is the
Exactly.
same energy.
Exactly. And I hate that we're,
same thing, different fonts.
exactly. And I hate that comparison, especially when, a lot of people have pointed out, and I agree to this extent. Like Ahsoka she was written for Anakin. But I
Yes,
do want to talk about how, I mean, in my personal opinion, she kind of grows out of that and becomes her own character, which I love.
100%.
I mean, I would say that, the point when she becomes, her own quote unquote character would be when she does leave the Jedi Order,
Yeah.
and then goes on. But I think I think that might be another reason why I quite enjoy her character, just because, she starts out as a very much a side, propping up the main protagonist, but, she does become her own person. So I kind of want to talk about that, hear your thoughts on that as well.
No, the thing is, and there are a lot of people who don't seem to get that. Like when they're making that, well, I like Ahsoka. Yeah, Ahsoka was literally both in interviews, both Dave Filoni and George Lucas have literally stated that her entire purpose behind her creation was to give Anakin a more believable fall to the dark side, because they didn't think that they had, George, I think, realized that time gap between episode 2 and episode 3 didn't really tell enough of the story of how Anakin fell. Exactly. Like we saw that he lost a lot, but it seemed like that switch just flipped halfway through the movie, and all of a sudden, boom. Okay, well, he's
exactly
like he just went from saving people to killing kids, like right now. So Lucas wanted to add something to make it a little bit more relatable, a little bit more understandable, that he would turn that hard. So they created Ahsoka for that purpose.
Yeah,
that's why they gave him a Padawan. That's why they wrote her character, was literally to make Anakin's story more believable. But some people are like, oh, well, she's the main character of the Clone Wars. No, she's not. No, she's not. The first time that she will ever be a main character is when Rosario Dawson is playing her in her title show.
Exactly.
She's been a side character the entire time, which is okay.
Yeah.
But she's not the main character.
Exactly.
It's you can arguably say that she was the main focus in the Clone Wars for many seasons.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of hard to say that somebody's the main character of a show when, and I believe it was season 6. Yeah, season 6.
She's not even
wasn't
there.
In a single episode.
Exactly.
So
seasons.
There was not even one time she was there in season 6.
No.
But so if you can run a show without the main character for a whole season,
exactly.
The main character.
Exactly.
But and season 6 is actually a really good season.
It's excellent. Yeah, I would agree. But it's interesting.
And it doesn't even have my favorite character in it. It's just still a really good season. But the thing that, with that comparison that people are making, it's like they don't seem to understand that particular point. But the other thing is, me personally, I feel like she started stepping out. It was a very nice slow progression of her being, Anakin's support character to really just becoming her own thing. I will agree with you. I will agree with you wholeheartedly that the solidifying point where it was definitely she is now her own was when she walked away from the Order. But I think that they really did a great job of slowly building her to that point.
Yes.
But what these guys, and that's the thing, now these Rey hater fanboys, I'm going to call them that because to clarify, I'm not talking about people who just don't like Rey as a character.
Oh, no.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I've tried to, TikTok suppresses my content whenever I actually say that because they want the drama and they don't want people to realize that I'm not always just bashing on people that don't like the sequels. It's never been that.
No, absolutely not.
It's when I say Ray hater fanboys, I'm talking about the people who go out of their way to harass both Daisy Ridley on social media, any
Yeah.
Ray cosplayer, anybody who actually values the character at all.
Yeah.
Ray isn't even in my top 5 favorite Jedi,
Yeah.
but I do love her character. Like,
You can
I
appreciate
will.
her character,
And here's the
and
thing. Oh, I more than appreciate her character. I genuinely love Ray's
yeah.
character. But she just still doesn't make that top 5 list of my favorite because there's others that I relate to more.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that I don't relate to Ray, but I can full-heartedly understand why other people strongly relate to her.
Yeah.
But the only reason why I even make content defending her and defending her character is because there's so many people that just aren't even willing to let other people have a favorite thing without being a jerk about it because they don't like it.
Yeah.
So, but those kind of people, those I'll say it again, the Ray hater fanboys.
Yep.
Your typical people that just don't enjoy the character. Yeah, and that's fine. But those people, when they're making these arguments, they will latch onto Ahsoka's character development. Be like, see, that's how it's done. Yeah, she had like 10 seasons of television shows to do that. And everybody hated her when she first came out. Like,
yeah,
I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there for that. I'm probably within the past 2 years a Clone Wars watcher. So like, I wasn't there for that original, but like the internet never forgets. I looked this stuff up. I saw the message boards where people were just flaming Ahsoka the same way that they were flaming Rey.
Yeah.
Like, it's George Lucas got one thing super right in all of Star Wars, and that is it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yes,
every single
absolutely.
time something new comes out, the fans are going to be the same kind of toxic pieces of garbage.
Yeah.
That just do the same thing over and over again. And I have, being that I'm 33 years old, I have lived through it multiple times because I saw it happen with the prequel trilogy. I'm seeing it happen with the sequel trilogy. I was able to go back and look at events that prove that it happened with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It definitely happened with Rebels. People hated Rebels. I'm like, that's what some of the best content we've ever got.
Rebels is incredible. Yeah.
There is such deep dives in the lore. There is amazing character development. And it's a whole new cast of new characters. Like, everything new. Like,
and a droid that commits war crimes. Like, come on, what more could you want from a TV show?
Chopper's one of the best droids ever.
Oh, absolutely.
And now I will step down off of my soapbox and stop preaching.
But yeah, no, I think it's sad because these, as you call them, sequel hating, or not sequel hating, but Rey hating fanboys, they use Ahsoka, to try. Yeah, they use Ahsoka to try and be like, well, I like Ahsoka, and I think that's sad because they kind of missed the whole point of her entire character then, right? Because she did develop and she did become her own person, but it's like, that I'm going to be honest, they probably aren't going to like her that much in the Ahsoka show because she's going to be independent and she's not going to be, she's going to be a woman doing things with the Force, and they're not going to be able to handle that. But it's sad to me because I think, Ahsoka is such an excellent character. And like you said, we got 10 seasons of her, which is just incredible. And so, I mean, it's hard not to like somebody who you had that much development for. And so
it was close to 10. I think I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say that. If you take out season 6 and there's at least a season or 2 of Rebels.
It's probably more like 8 or 9, but still.
Yeah, but you still, definitely a little bit of hyperbole on that with me, fluffing the numbers up a little bit, but
it's a lot. But it's still more than
had so much more screen time.
Exactly.
Than 3 movies in a trilogy. Like when and this is actually pretty important to like how it relates to me in my life, is that when I watched Clone Wars and Rebels, the first exposure that I had to her character was when these shows came, when Disney Plus first launched.
Right.
I had never, as a kid, I didn't really watch a lot of TV, so I never watched the Clone Wars as a kid. I never watched Rebels as a kid.
Right.
And I know like they came out on Netflix, but back then I was just like, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in it. But
Yeah.
then after the sequels came out, like I started seeing people on TikTok and like everybody was like really energized about Star Wars. I was like, I could definitely use some more Star Wars content. I
Yeah.
loaded up Disney Plus. I started watching Clone Wars. And a week later, I had watched all of Clone Wars. Like it was just
That's
one of those things where
incredible.
it was like well, it was just, and I think Rebels took me another week. Like it was just one of those things where, hey, the pandemic was going on. I was unemployed. I had nothing better to be doing.
Right,
So I
right.
just sat down and started watching these shows, and I got sucked in. And the thing is, had I watched these shows, like there's so many reasons why Ahsoka's character relates to me so strongly. Most of them are because of real life experiences.
Mhm.
Her journey is my journey, but as a teenager, I would have never related to that journey because
Right.
the things that happened to her happened to me much later in life. So I'm glad that my exposure to Ahsoka and that my exposure to Clone Wars and Rebels was later on in my life after I had these experiences to really latch onto them for. You know, we anybody who's watching this who already knows Ahsoka's character knows that like her entire arc, her entire path is devoting her life to the Jedi Order, being a little unconventional about it, but devoting her life to the Jedi Order, and then being accused of things that she did not commit and walking away from that order, but yet retaining all the good lessons that she learned. Well, in my life, I grew up raised as a fundamental Christian.
Right.
Tried to do everything I could by the book, like
the literal book.
And like my whole life, I was trying to just be this walking perfect example of what a Christian should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of it wrong, but I had a lot of it right too. Like I was, it's as any human is. There were things that I was clinging to that were completely incorrect. There were also things that I was clinging to that genuinely were good for myself and others. Like it's just part of the human experience. And you can see Ahsoka go through that same thing with the Jedi Order.
Yes.
But then as where Barriss Offee betrays her and sets her up for something that she didn't do.
Yeah.
I had similar issues with the church because, putting this out here, not a lot of people know this, but I was actually a minister. I was a youth pastor for around a year, maybe a little bit longer. And issues that happened within the church shifted blame towards me for something that I was actually the victim of.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not going to go into full details because it's not that kind of podcast. But the fact of it was, I got pretty jaded with the church for that, and I could very well have seen myself going, walking away, this is what I did. I walked away from the organized portion of religion.
Right.
But I continued to carry the light with me from what I had learned before. And that's a lot what Ahsoka embodies. Like, she never loses that light. She is basically the living personification of the light side, especially
definitely.
Especially after the arc with Daughter. She's carrying Daughter's life force. She essentially is meant to be the physical embodiment of the light side. Maybe not to the fullest of degrees, but the symbolism is always there.
Oh, definitely.
And even when she makes bad decisions, she makes them with the best of intentions, and she learns from them and keeps going forward. But she never lost her light.
Exactly.
She never struggled with falling into the dark side. She carried on the better parts of the Jedi religion, and that's what I've tried to do. Like I have walked away from the organization itself, but I've tried to keep the good that I learned, because not everything about that experience was bad. There was a lot that I learned from them, taught me how to love other people better, how to care for other people better. But I separated myself from the things in that organization that lead to bigotry, that lead to hatred, that lead to, putting yourself up on a pedestal like a lot of the Jedi did.
Yes, exactly.
There's you can actually, like I said this to you earlier, there is a major allegory between religion and the the Jedi Order, and
Hmm.
all the way down to straight up bigotry and straight up, pompous, prideful arrogance.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's that's the parallels it's trying to draw. Like, I don't think Lucas was hiding that at all.
No,
He was not shying
no.
away from it in the slightest. Like, he put it right in your face.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
so that being said, that's why I love Ahsoka's character so much, because I was watching that as a 30-something-year-old man,
Hmm.
realizing, wow, this is so weird. I relate more to this adolescent female character than I've related to many male protagonists. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, to have strange representation in a way that,
Hmm.
like, she's definitely not she's not my character. I can't claim that,
Yeah.
but her story is my story. Like, I feel that so strongly, and it's just something that, like, her friendship with Rex along the way, and Rex having a similar path where, he had to second guess and doubt everything he went through.
Yeah.
It's just, those characters really tell a story that just relates to me so hard, because I had to restructure my entire way of thinking and deconstruct
Yeah.
to, it's when you spend your entire life trying to dive into one singular goal, and
Yeah.
you reach that goal, and you are in that position, and then you find out it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah.
It's not as good as you thought. Uh, there's a lot of restructuring to do, and watching these characters go through that and come out on the other side better for it made me feel like, what, maybe there's still hope for me yet. It's
Hmm.
it's another one of the reasons why Star Wars is so powerful and important to a lot of people, because, like, it's a galaxy that gives you hope.
Exactly.
A lot of people say, well, keep your politics out of my Star Wars, keep your real world stuff out of my Star Wars. No,
No.
no, because these things in this fictional universe that parallel our own give us hope that there is something better. That
Exactly.
when we are at our lowest, we can pull a Luke Skywalker and save the galaxy. When we're
Exactly.
at our lowest, and when we are at a point where we don't think that we can get justice, we can say, I am no Jedi, and find it ourselves, like Ahsoka. It's understanding and learning these lessons is just so powerful and so important.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I think that's so nice. Well, I mean, I'm sorry that, you had to go through something like that. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but I'm glad
I'm
that you
not.
were.
I'm not. I'm not. The bad experiences that happen in life make you stronger.
Exactly.
So I'm
That's
not.
the thing is
I'm
it's
not
like
sorry. I'm not.
it sucks in the moment, but I'm glad that you were able to come out of it, a better. I don't know if you're a better person, but I'm assuming you are. And also that you were able to not only have Star Wars, to relate to, but be able to find something that's like so deeply relatable. I think that's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
and that's really what is so amazing about Star Wars, right? Because the underlying theme of all of Star Wars is hope, but
Yeah.
it shows up in so many different ways. And I think that Ahsoka leaving the order, as devastating as that was in the moment, it that shows hope as well, because when we see her again, she's found her place in the galaxy, and it's not exactly as she expected it to be, right?
Yep.
But she's still, she's come back from a hard experience
Yeah.
better. Which kind of leads me into the last thing I wanted to talk about is how do we, she says I am no Jedi, right? So she doesn't believe
Yeah.
she's a Jedi, and in the Ahsoka novel, there's, when you're kind of in her head, she's like, I'm not a Jedi, whatever. But it seems like she just feels like she can't say she is, simply because of her training, and I would argue that she is a Jedi, right? Like,
I think I think a lot of it is guilt. I think a
exactly.
lot of it is guilt, but the other part of it is a deliberate choice to separate herself from that and be something that is her own.
Yes.
It's her whole life she trained to be a Jedi, and you can see her struggling with it in season 7.
Oh
Which
yeah.
is because my whole life we were trained to be peacekeepers, but my whole life we've known nothing but war. It's you can see the wheels turning of deconstruction of that religion in her mind. She's she's working through this and realizing maybe I'm not a Jedi. Maybe this is not my calling. Maybe I am meant for something more. And I think that the best iteration of Ahsoka, and the one that brought the most real change to the galaxy, was when Ahsoka was no Jedi, and Ahsoka was Fulcrum.
Yeah.
Because as Fulcrum, she founded the rebellion.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Literally, to the point where, she was the first one to start putting out contacts from Bail Organa and start putting all of these pieces together. She started off just by doing little good deeds, stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, essentially. She would haul supplies from an Imperial area and then run them and drop them off to, people who were in need. Yeah. And then when Bail, caught her doing that, he was like, "You want to do this on a bigger scale?"
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank God, you're not turning me in. Oh, sweet. Yeah, yeah. Sure. Yeah, what do you got for me?
Yeah, exactly.
You got job?
Yeah. She was like, a job with people? I don't have to be alone anymore? Yeah. I'm there.
But yeah, that's, so I think that she's a Jedi? No, I do not. But do I think that she's everything that the Jedi should have been? Yes. I do.
Okay,
that's where I'm at. I view her as the perfect embodiment of what the Jedi should have been, but failed to be. Now, that's discounting and taking out all the progress that we've seen of the truth of the Jedi Order from High Republic, because I've actually not dove into High Republic at all, but I've heard that it makes the Jedi a lot more likable.
Oh, absolutely.
Both returning of them starting to fall in the prequel era, which made sense. They make it a little bit more relatable as to, them having a height of power and then them slowly starting to feel corruption from the other side and then losing their way.
Yeah.
But as for prequel era and beyond, I would say Ahsoka is like the living embodiment of what the Jedi should be. But when she said she's no Jedi, she's no Jedi. She's not lying.
Yeah, no. To me, I've read just the first High Republic book, and already what you're saying is absolutely true. The Jedi are incredibly likable. Like, I'm reading these books and I'm like, oh, I like these people. Not that I don't like the prequel Jedi, but you know what I mean? And I would definitely agree that Ahsoka is like High Republic level of what the Jedi are supposed to be. So this is why it's an interesting question, right? Because it's like, is she a Jedi in the sense of the prequels? No. But does she embody, Jedi qualities? I would say yes. So it's like kind of, to me, I'm kind of like, you're a Jedi. And I mean, other characters are like, you're acting like a Jedi. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, she doesn't think she is. So therefore I'm going to go with, okay, maybe she's not. Yeah. But she is, but she's not. But
well, what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So I can liken it, her saying she's not a Jedi, but her embodying the Jedi ideals. I can relate that to my own personal experience, with Christianity and with my faith.
Right.
I can easily look at it and say, I try my best to embody the teachings of Christ.
Right.
I fail a lot, but I try.
Yeah.
But even if I were to embody all of those, even if I were to succeed at every single ideal that Christ had taught, I am no Christian.
Right.
I'm not a part of that organization just because of the flaws, and I could be everything that a Christian should be, the right thing.
Right.
But but like Ahsoka was with the Order, I'm jaded with that organization just because of the ways that I've seen, not only in my own personal experiences, but the way that I've seen things handled all over, the mega churches, and I would say, pardon my language, but this isn't even, colloquially, this is actually not even considered swearing, but it's a bastardization of what the faith is supposed to be. And, the fact that Ahsoka felt that with the Order, justifiably.
Yeah.
She saw people like Luminara, who, Luminara, Luminara, thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Be with
Yeah.
you. You know, this this prime Jedi who sees people in need and is just like, oh well, sorry, I killed your parents, but
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta go. So it's like I've seen that kind of a thing happen within the church too. So it's like I don't associate myself with that. And
Right.
that's how I feel that Ahsoka embodies what a Jedi should be without being a Jedi. Now, that is until they confirm in her Disney Plus show,
Right.
because there's a lot of thought process going on. In the Mandalorian, they called her Jedi and she didn't fight it this time.
Yeah.
People would say
Yeah.
it to her before, and she said, "I'm no Jedi."
Yeah.
In the Mandalorian, she didn't. So there might have been some type of reconciliation there
Yeah.
that we haven't seen yet that might come out in her show.
Yeah.
So the way that I'm looking at it is, until confirmed otherwise in canon, she is no Jedi like she said she's no Jedi. But there is a potential there. I guess some people also caught that if you look at her belt in The Mandalorian, she actually had her Padawan beads hanging from her belt. So
Yeah.
there was some type of reattachment to the Order, or even if it was just fond memories of Anakin and trying to remember what once was.
Right. Yeah.
There's some indication or implication that maybe she did finish finding out that she was still everything a Jedi should be.
Yeah.
And especially the way that Luke came onto the scene and really took the better parts of the Order without taking the baggage. So in that case, we'll see what she does. But for now, I'm sticking with her arc. Feels exactly like mine, so I can easily say that if she's me, then she means it when she says she's no Jedi.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. Until further confirmed, she is no Jedi, and I'm excited for the Ahsoka show. But I like this conversation we've had, and I appreciate you sharing your experience, because that means a lot to me. And it's really, I love to see how how Star Wars influences or is received by different people. And so yeah, I really appreciate that, as well as just coming on in general. Thank you for reaching out to me to come on the show. That this was great. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me know anytime. I'll come back anytime you want.
But yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I had, wanting to discuss for today. So we'll say goodbye here to everybody. If y'all are still listening, thank you. We appreciate that. And yeah, thank you, Kev, for coming on today. As always, to everybody out
Thanks
there,
for having me.
Please reach out to us on social media. I'll link Kevin's stuff in the bio. We'd love to hear from you, as long as you're nice. And as always, hope everyone's having a great day, night, morning, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are listening. And as always, may the force be with you.